Next, we'll do a couple of scenarios just for you to see how we translate real life type examples into more economic terms. So the first is we have Jiffy Burger, and they're a fast food company, and they sell about 8,000 quarter pounders in a week. And to meet the demand, they need about 2,000 pounds of ground beef each week on Monday at 8 a.m. sharp because they have to start their prep for the day. So number one, as the manager of the Jiffy Burger, what are the problems that you might anticipate if you acquired them using a spot exchange? First is, do they have the 2,000 pounds? And we'll look at some hints, all right? So hints on this is it standard or specialized? The next hint is there a risk of opportunism, bargaining, or holdup? And what's the risk of underinvestment and quality? So in this case, if we find a vendor willing to drive their truck, the refrigerated truck with the ground beef to my store, then I see that it's not a specialized product, so that would lead to an okay consideration for a spot market. But there is a risk for opportunism. What if this truck driver comes up to my store at 8 a.m. on Monday and said, ground beef is pretty scarce this week, so I think I'm going to have to raise your price higher by $1.50 a pound just because the market is just going out of control. So you are being held up by the opportunism of the truck driver because they know you need the hamburger. They know you can't get it very quickly elsewhere. There's also underinvestment risk where they say, well, what percent fat? Maybe I could sneak in a little more fat in the burger and therefore have a lower quality burger and therefore take advantage of the situation yet again. So that's the tying in of the economic concepts we just discussed into something simple like buying ground beef. The second, let's go the other side. You're now the manager of the firm that's selling the ground beef. So what problems might happen to you? Because there are risks both ways. First is, did you have to make special investments to make the Jiffy Burger? If not, then that's a lesser of a risk. But there is still a risk of opportunism. And here, the example would be you drive up to the Jiffy Burger location at 8 a.m. sharp, and you see 5 other trucks there from 5 other vendors. And then now the manager walks out and says, hey, everybody, I need 2,000 pounds. Who's going to give me the best price? And make sure it's the quality I have as my minimum acceptable quality. So what are my bids for this beef? And you say, oh my God, I've got ground beef in my truck. I don't have a ready place to sell it right away. So I'm now going to have to compete and sell at a lower price. Well, that's not what you bargained for, but that's what you got. So there is opportunism now against you on the part of the buyer. So this does happen both ways, right? Just like we said with the hotel room, that is a holdup risk that happens to either the buyer or the seller. The second example is, let's go with the supermarket. In the real world, virtually all purchases have some type of specialization. So you're driving to a supermarket and you spend some time and some money, like gasoline, that is valuable to you just to get to the groceries that you want at the supermarket. So why wouldn't consumers sign contracts with supermarkets to prevent the supermarkets from opportunism once they get there? And what do I mean by that? Well, you spend all the time to drive to Safeway, and the 99-cent apples are now $1.99. Now you're saying, you know what? I could have gone to 5 other places and got them for 99 cents, but I'm here and it will cost me more than whatever the difference is to drive to another place, not to mention my time. So, okay, damn it, I'm going to pay $9.99 for the apple, right? So this is an example of opportunism. Now, why doesn't that happen? Well, there is a risk. We've established that. And the cost of the spot versus a contract is there's not a lot of incentive for us to go through a legal document to sign with Safeway, as if they would even engage in that, to sign a contract for your fruits and vegetable purchases. So the costs are probably not anywhere worth it to either party to go through the legal hassle of doing so. And is this one time or recurring? And here's the key to this. It's a recurring transaction. It's not your first trip or last trip to Safeway. And hopefully Safeway would have the same opinion of you, that they want you as a long-term customer. So what is guarding against the holdup and keeping the pricing somewhat honest, if you will, is that Safeway wants to keep you as a long-term customer. So they need to provide you value that doesn't cause you, next time you want to buy something, to drive to a Lucky store or Whole Foods or wherever else you're going to drive to. So those are the considerations in something as simple as buying apples from a supermarket. The third item is on aircraft engines. So here we have a very specialized product, it's not an Apple. So the example of Big Bird Air is obligated to purchase 50 jet engines from Airbus over the next 2 years at a price of $200,000 per engine. Now, they're confident to be protected by opportunism because they negotiated it. So they start building their airplanes without the engine, of course. Now, due to unforeseen conditions, in the second year, Airbus says, we're on the brink of bankruptcy. And now we have to increase the price of the engine from $200,000 to $300,000. We were sorry that this happened, but we need to do this or we'll go bankrupt and you won't get your engine. So what is this? What should the manager do? So in this case, Big Bird is absolutely encountering what they will feel as a holdup. We had a deal at 200. You're now coming to me at 300, citing some bankruptcy thing. First, you need to validate that it indeed is true and not just a ploy to get you to pay $100,000 more. Next is completeness. Did completeness cover you on this? Was there something that you could have put into the contract to protect you against this situation occurring? Was there some type of inspection or financial reporting to make sure the vendor is capable of surviving in order to supply you what you need? So there might have been something missing in the contract term to protect against this potential. What are the trade-offs in negotiating and bargaining? Here, we may not have spent enough time, in this case, negotiating the deal, or enough time looking for alternative vendors. And we may be regretting both of those now. And what are the hidden costs? We have massive hidden costs. To buy from another engine manufacturer would probably have us need to retrofit all those airplanes we've begun building and also redesign all the engineering behind the new airplane with the different engine. So there's a lot of hidden costs in this particular situation, again, some of which we may regret we didn't do in advance. And what are the alternatives that, in hindsight, that could have been done to contracting with Airbus? First, you could have done better due diligence to see if Airbus was going to be around. You may have felt that Airbus was a low-cost provider, but because of the risk that they won't be around, I'm better off buying from another vendor who may charge me more, but has less or no risk, we hope, of going out of business. Hindsight's 2020. So these are some things that are very common, and it's a big advantage that existing players have over any new entrant into the business. They could plant the fear of this type of supply shortage or financial viability of the supplier to the customers and retain a high share of business. I'm sure that's what a lot of big companies do to kind of thwart the effort of perhaps a superior product at a lower price from a new entrant.